Well, I was just about to start talking to you about MVN London, and then this van right here, Rack Ceramics, I mean, this is not set up at all. Those are the guys that are providing the tiles for the floor in MVN London. All 20 tons of tiles. Anyway, welcome to the Rolls Royce Phantom 8, no less. This is, despite the fact that it feels absolutely colossal, this is the short wheelbase version. They do make a long wheelbase. When I collected the car earlier, it was parked next to a new Mercedes-Benz A-Class, and it made it look like a toy car. This thing has its own scale. And I've also noticed that when you're driving, even though the layout of this car feels more like a car, the ride height of it and my seating position is more like an SUV. Now, you'll notice in a minute we'll probably drive past some generic SUV of sorts and just watch where my sort of headline is. It's almost in line with their roofline. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, the reason I'm in a Phantom 8 is because since I've got on board with MVN London, I have adopted a disproportionate amount of motorway miles. Now, while I love driving the GT3 and it's a great daily driver, I don't necessarily want to smack on a load of boring miles. So what I'm looking at right now, or contemplating, is a car that is both comfortable to drive and comfortable to be driven in. And let's face it, who sets the benchmark in that world but Rolls-Royce? Look, there's a high car. So, sun is shining, we're going to make our way down this lovely fresh asphalt, down the motorway, enjoy the sweet sound of the world's quietest V12, and immerse you further in the Phantom 8 before showing you the next development of MVN London, which, while I've been in Dubai, has been powerful growth. Like, it's the most change that I've seen so far. And then later on, we're going to go furniture shopping. Not just any old furniture, some really cool furniture shopping, and find out what this thing is like in town as well, because let's face it, while this is great as a grand tourer, once you get into the tight streets of London, it's a very different ballgame. So speaking of being driven, what would a Rolls-Royce drive be without experiencing what it's like to be chauffeured in the back of the car? Now, as I mentioned, this is still the short wheelbase, or the standard wheelbase version of the Phantom 8, and still, look at the space. It's colossal. And I have my good friend, Payton, chauffeuring me. How's it going at the front, sir?
Spiffingly, sir.
Spiffing! Spiffing! What's it like to drive?
Like I'm driving a cloud.
You know, in every other car that we experience, are like, we shaved some titanium off the wheel bolts to make it a little bit lighter. And Rolls Royce said, that's cute. We put 12 sheep in the wheel wells.
I do. Speaking of that, I feel bad having my shoes on these carpets, man. I mean, these are better than my house carpets.
Let me just show you the carpets. That rug that my fingers get lost in, that is the carpets. And a minute ago I was joking that the sound deadening in here is like having 12 sheep in the wheel well. Turns out that the product code on the back of this is actually lambskin. Yes, there's a sheep to rest my feet on. Oh, the lounge, man! Thank you, sir.
We have arrived.
Well driven, thank you. And just like that, we were back at MVN London. Okay, finally back inside MVN. Now, before we talk about the amazing developments which have happened since I've been in Dubai, let's talk about the spec on this car. Now, one of the new features of the car is the self-closing door from the outside. Now, they always used to self-close from the inside by pressing the little lazy door button, but there's a pretty cool feature now where if you hold the door and hold that little button there, it closes itself, like so. So on the drive down, I was mentioning a unique feature about this car. You might have spotted it. but this is a matte paint job, or as Rolls Royce like to refer to it, an iced gunmetal silver. Now, it might seem standard procedure, and you're probably thinking, I've definitely seen matte paint jobs before on a Rolls Royce. Chances are that was probably a wrap, because Rolls Royce are telling me this is the first time that they've ever applied a matte or satin or iced, as these guys call it, paint job to a car from factory. So this is a pretty special car, and this is why that they use this as their Geneva show car this year. And to top it off, they also have a satin finish contrast silver bonnet. One of the cool optional extra, the Spirit of Ecstasy, is uplit. There's a sort of LED light bar that sits underneath her and uplights it at night, which is a really cool feature. And if you come down to the wheels, they've even gone so far to match the central wheel trim to the body colour of the car. So that is also an iced paint finish. It's very cool details. And then around the back, and these are things that are really subtle, but I guess in a way as sort of bold and huge as these cars are, the subtleties are in the details, but these are optional extra chrome tipped exhausts. I think all in all it ties it together pretty well and gives it a pretty manly look. I haven't been here for about 2 weeks and the rate of development has been bonkers. Now, just quickly on the drive down here, do you remember me pointing that van out to you, the Rack Ceramics van? I wasn't kidding though. Rack Ceramics, this is the same guys that just dropped off our tiles for this floor. This is an example of the size of them. So if I put my foot here, you can kind of get a good feel for the size of these tiles. Now, these are quite dirty right now. I'm not sure if I can clean it up a little bit. The tiles are identical to the tiles in NVN Dubai. And it's funny, when I mentioned this, we've got 20 tons of tiles to come and tile this entire area. If you include the lounge, which we're actually doing in a different flooring, it's about 1,000 square meters of tiling. And there was quite a few comments when I mentioned it saying, you know, why aren't you just happy with the floor you've got? You could just polish it up and it would be fine. And my answer to that was, you know, would you find a polished floor in the Apple store? Or would you find a polished floor in the McLaren showroom? Or would you find a polished floor in the reception of the Four Seasons Hotel? The answer is no to all three of them, and therefore we don't want to find a polished floor in NVN either. We want to make this environment as much of a luxurious showroom environment as we possibly can, and that's why we're going for the tiles. So anytime any of you guys come here, it feels much less like a warehouse. Speaking of much less like a warehouse, let's go and check out the development of the lounge. So this is more my personal project, which is taking place inside NVN. And behold, we have glass. Okay, we're a step closer towards this feeling like its own room now. The biggest addition to that is the exposed brick wall. Now, this is the theme that we've taken over from NVN Dubai, but that original theme came from the whole sort of industrial district in New York loft type of feel. We wanted to make it a bit warmer in contrast to the sort of super clean and sterile environment outside. We wanted to bring it in and warm it up on the lounge on the inside. So we put this exposed brick wall. We do have wooden beams and frames and surrounds going in there to make all this green stuff vanish, and we do have an interesting floor material coming here soon, which has a history in itself. The flooring that's going down here is over 100 years old. More on that soon. So the coffee culture is a very big and important part of this space. The coffee bar will be over there. There's going to be more on that soon as well. I don't want to give too much of that away just yet. And importantly, and for me the bit which has really segregated it the most, is that the floor to ceiling glass is now in place. So once this is all shut and sealed, we have sliding doors being fitted here. Now I'm here and the lights are in, and these sort of exhaust inspired air conditioning and heating pipes are in, and the wall is looking like we're in a loft. Really starting to get the feel for it now. This is one of the moments that I've been envisaging, I'm not joking, for about 6 months now. And then we've continued that theme of the exposed brick out here. Now this wall is the other side of the wash bay wall. So the wash bay is on that side, and we're going to be having big panels of glass on top of here. So obviously to keep any overspray from happening and falling on this nice area here. And obviously there will be cars on the other side, which we want to keep clean. But we've maintained that aesthetic to reflect the lounge inside. And now finally, we have drainage. So the diggers have been in while I've been away, dug this big drainage channel, and when the tiles go down, they'll be angling them just slightly here to make sure all of the water drains away. And then in contrast to that side, on this side, we've put this really clean white tiles here to sort of indicate that this is the wash bay area. This is just ultra clean, well lit, and polished so that the water just hits this and drains right. Okay, so just for one more piece of context, over my left shoulder is the Rolls Royce Phantom 8. It's just to highlight just how big this place is. One more time, it makes this look like a tiny little toy. Anyway, let's hop in that toy, head into Central, and check out Timothy Alton for some gorgeous furniture for this wonderful showroom. Okay, back in the Rolls on our way to Timothy Alton. Now this for me is kind of the true test almost for the Phantom 8, because let's face it, even though these things are great on the sort of long road trips on the open roads, you do see sort of a disproportionate amount of these cars in London, which is funny because it's tiny around here. It's so tight. We're on these old streets which haven't really been fully adapted for cars of this size. So we're gonna see what it's like trying to navigate this thing around roads like this. All right, we've arrived. Timothy Alton, London. This is their HQ. Now, funnily enough, I furnished the majority of my house with these guys, and I never came to their HQ at the time because it wasn't open. But now we're here at the place that embodies everything about this brand. Let's jump inside and check it out. They do some really cool stuff, and hopefully we're gonna be able to get some interesting artifacts for MVN London.
Yes, adore you all of the time. I like to. I like to.
Alright, check this thing out. Have you seen the size of it? Wow. Apollo. The Timothy Alton Apollo. Oh man, this is an unbelievable space. Look at this. Could you imagine the poker and the parties you could have in here? Not that I'm a big poker player, but it's the first thing that came to mind. It's unbelievable. So it's a sort of lunar module Apollo pod turned into the greatest hangout space I think I've ever seen, with what looks to be a backlit quartz tabletop, you know, as you do. It's huge. It's absolutely gorgeous, man. You could chill in here. Do you know what this would make perfect for? A podcast room. Imagine that. Just hanging a microphone from the center here. People can just hang around and talk and have the ultimate podcast suite. Okay, so being a lounge, predominantly we're looking for somewhere for everyone to sit and to sit on. Now, what's great about this place is that everything has a story. So we've just checked out these chairs. These are inspired by the F-14 fighter jet plane. I mean, if there's anything that you want your furniture to be inspired by, it's a fighter jet. And check it out. Look at the detail on this thing. It's so cool. Now, the cockpit of the F-14 was a two-person cockpit, and the idea is that these are great in pairs because you can sort of sit one off center from the next and sort of hang out. But at first you wouldn't think that that was somewhere that is nice to sit, but it's so comfortable. But something else inspired by both a plane and the name of a hypercar is the Valkyrie desk. So of course we've got the Aston Martin Valkyrie, but this is themed from the Valkyrie bomber. And check it out, it's basically an articulated wing that has been converted into a desk. We've got this pretty much matching chair, and if you're wondering why you've been spotting bowler hats everywhere, this is the Timothy Alton logo, and you'll find these dotted around all of their products. So for example, if I flip over this chair here, you might just see, yeah, there you go, look. They make sure that they put a bowler hat on every one of their products, just to let you guys know that it's from their brand. Just, you know, casually sticking a GoPro on a train. Of course, what lounge wouldn't be complete without a gorgeous sofa? Now, Timothy Alton have taken over the old Bluebird shop, so they have some limited edition blue-themed things like this blue sofa, which they're making 50 of, but also the fish inside the tank are also only blue. Okay, that was our time at Timothy Alton. It's such an amazing showroom, right?
What a place.
It is amazing. So just for context, this is Marek, who heads up NVN Dubai, and he's come all the way over here. You're basically living here right now, right?
Pretty much,
to set up and establish NVN in London. What are we thinking about this furniture then, dude? It's pretty cool.
Insane place. I mean, the team from Timothy Alton is just unbelievable. Yeah.
And we'll see if we can get, I don't know, an Apollo pod in there for a podcast or something.
Pretty unique.
But wouldn't that be incredible? You know, when I jumped in earlier, I was like, half jokingly, wouldn't this be amazing for a podcast? But the more I think about it, it's perfect.
Can't get more podcasts than that.
You cannot get more podcasts than the Apollo pod.
That's it.
Can you imagine having guests in there? Just be ridiculous. And the acoustics as well, because it's like leather lined.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Seamless transition to evening time. We've just dropped Marek back off at the NVN apartment, which we will share with you soon. I just think it's a pretty cool space to show, considering we're going to be spending a lot of time there and there's some operational stuff happening as our NVN base here in London. Speaking of London and the Phantom 8, I've got to say, this thing outdid my expectations, despite the fact that it is large, as you've seen earlier on, trying to squeeze through some of those tight back roads. The rear wheel steering on this has transformed it. Now, interestingly, when Marek was in the back of the car, he said that he could actually feel it working. The way that this car pivots around corners is incredibly impressive, but massively helpful. Like through town, I actually remember the first time that I drove a Phantom 8, which was at the launch in Switzerland. And I remember saying that from 0 to like 30 miles an hour, the way this thing silently moves across the tarmac, it kind of feels like it's levitating. And the effortless nature upon which it gains momentum. I think looking back on that content, I said it's like there's a magnet at the other end of the road sort of drawing you along. Rolls Royce call the ride on this the magic carpet ride, and I see why. This is the first time that I spent some proper time with a Rolls Royce in a city environment. Game changer. It is silent, and then on the drive down here as well, you waft along with loads of space in the back, and really these guys set the benchmark, or the top tier at least, in terms of your sort of luxury daily grand tourer. And second of all, amazing experience with Timothy Alton. Now those guys, you walk in there, I hope we did a good enough job of conveying the environment of that showroom. It's so special. Everything has a story about it, and in terms of the style and feel that we're going for in the NVN lounge, we think we've really hit the nail on the head. Now we're on our next journey. There's a new car arriving on the channel soon, which we shall share with you shortly, on a similar ethos to the sort of luxury daily driver cruiser, which might be good for driving and being driven in. As always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Your subscriptions are my oxygen. See you next time. Ciao.